2026 will be the last year that we see Medicaid at its current form. So let's talk about how Medicaid operates at a state level and what that means for folks with Medicaid. So essentially, Medicaid is operated very differently throughout all the 50 states. Each state has the control to operate Medicaid in the way that they seem fit. So what does that mean? That means the states can control, has their own the states have their own eligibility rules. They have their own list of covered services by Medicaid, and they also have their own provider rates. Now, the provider rates is a big one because what that means is for a provider to basically do a service for someone with Medicaid, they are reimbursed for that service at a specific predetermined rate. And so if you're in Illinois, that rate may be lower than if you were in Virginia or New York or California. So essentially, what that starts to mean is that there are going to be less providers in, let's say, Illinois doing a specific service than there would be in a Virginia or New York or California because the rate of doing that service in Illinois is less than it is in those other states. And so that leads to sort of a discrepancy in care and service. Um, and so essentially, what the states also do is they also pass on the operational efforts of Medicaid to other organizations. Those are called MCOs, managed care organizations. And essentially, those organizations, you could think of them as like your Blue Cross Blue Shields, you can think of them as your Aetnas, your Cignas, etc. And so they're basically contracted by the state to execute Medicaid through their own sort of internal systems, and then they get reimbursed by Medicaid at a state level. And so that also dictates how care is given within a specific state because some MCOs may operate better than others, meaning they might reimburse providers in a more efficient timeline than others. So that's going to dictate who, which MCO the provider is taking. That dictates how the how how fast the provider is going to get paid, and so they may take it from one. That dictates how those who have a MCO that isn't as great, they may not get as much service. Those who have a really great MCO, they may get every single service under the sun, and so that starts to lead to a discrepancy. And so one thing that I predict we'll start seeing in 2027, as the Big Beautiful Bill aims to really reduce Medicaid spending, is we're going to start to see the discrepancy in how Medicaid is operated per state. That's going to start to increase. We're going to start to see the richer states have retained more access to care, retain more access to providers, as they're able to absorb way more of the cost than poorer states. And so that's going to greatly affect how people with Medicaid in those states receive care and what type of care they receive. Um, so I don't necessarily see their Medicaid in certain states retaining every single service that they currently offer. I don't see every single provider that takes Medicaid continuing to take Medicaid as these different changes begin to occur in 2027. And so that's going to greatly affect care.